Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode on the Little Fella Sports Podcast. So we are having this episode on the back of a very famous Indian win. We were 1-0 down in the series before this Test match started. Right from the toss, whatever India did, it just clicked. And a splendid batting performance in the first innings, which actually means a lot because England in both innings combined could not get India's first innings total. So I think the first innings batting performance, which was simply superb, and then the collapse that we triggered in the first innings of England's with Ashwin's fifer and very tight bowling from Akshar Patel as well. In the second innings, we did lose a flurry of wickets. Our entire middle order was wiped out in space of 45 minutes. But Virat Kohli and Ravichandran Ashwin stitched together a wonderful partnership. And then Ashwin with that very famous century that's going to be talked for a lot of years to come. And then in the fourth innings, a resolute bowling performance. Everyone chipped in. And overall, it was a great team performance. And it's going to be a win that's going to be cherished for a long period of time. So today on the show we have Gurkirat and Shreyas to review this second test match. So Gurkirat, starting off with you, what are your initial thoughts on the win? How are you feeling about the win?
A brilliant win, without a doubt. I have always believed that when India play on a rank turner, the opposition has a good chance, and they did because the ball was spinning from day one. But I think the difference was, a lot of people were talking that it's a rank turner, it's a rank turner. I don't think it was a rank turner. It had bounce because in terms of spin, I think it was not spinning as much as it spun in Bangalore 2017. It was not even close to Pune 2017 or a Nagpur 2015 or a Mumbai 2012. It had bounce. And the problem when the pitch has bounce is that you can't play the sweep shot effectively. And I think that was sort of led to the downfall of English batsmen in this test match. Talking of the sweep, I felt that Rohit Sharma put on an exhibition of sweep shots because he was playing the perfect copybook sweep shot every time he did it, especially to Moeen Ali. He was getting outside the off stump, ensuring that even if he misses it, the impact with the ball is outside the off stump and he can't be given out LBW. And every time he did it, the ball was either too full or it was a full toss. He did sweep a couple, I think, from the stumps, but they were off full tosses from Jack Leach. So he actually put on an exhibition of sweep shots, which was great to see. After I think on day two morning or after day two, I had said that the amount of runs that Rohit has scored in the first innings would be more than what England would score in the fourth innings. That prediction almost came true because England were 126 for 9. It's just that Moeen Ali started to swing his bat and they got all out for 164. So that speaks of the impact that Rohit's innings had. I genuinely feel that despite Ashwin's 100, it should have been Rohit who sort of been should have been given the man of the match because even though Ashwin scored runs, and he took wickets, but it's important to know that when by the time Ashwin came out to bat and scored those runs, India had already won the game. India had enough runs. When Ashwin came out to bat, India had a lead of 300 plus, I think, and by that time the game was pretty much in India's bag. It just assured like his innings assured that India sort of bat out England of the game. So I genuinely think it should have been Rohit Sharma who should have been the man of the match. Apart from that, like a complete team performance, except for say maybe a Gill. Almost everyone chipped in and scored, and a Pujara. Pujara unlucky to get out the way he did in the second innings. And I just think with the way Kuldeep bowled, there's a lot of improvement. But we'll speak on it later. But overall, like I said, a complete team performance, a great win, and hopefully India carry on the momentum forward in the next two tests. Just a little piece of trivia that I came out today. Since September 2018, whenever India has fielded a debutant, they've not lost a test match. The last time a debutant played for India and lost a test match was in Oval 2018 versus England. After that, Prithvi Shaw, Shardul Thakur, Mayank Agarwal, Shahbaz Nadeem, Mohammad Siraj, Shubman Gill, Navdeep Saini, T. Natarajan, Washington Sundar, and Akshar Patel have made their debuts, and except for one game, which was in Sydney, which was Navdeep Saini's debut, India won all the games in which they've played a debut. So Indian fans often complain that a debutant has scored runs against us or took wicket against us, and led to us losing the game. But I think since 2018, we have had the rub of the green when it comes to debutants.
Yeah, that's a pretty comprehensive summarization of the game, and I think the trivia that you just put out, it actually shows the wonderful bench strength that India has, and the vastly, elaborate domestic system that we have that keeps producing top quality players year in year out. And I think that's something that all of us Indian fans should be indebted to. The fact that our domestic system is so strong fundamentally that we're able to see quality cricketers coming through. And Shreyas, coming over to you, Gurkirat summarized most of the moments of this wonderful test match. Do you have anything to add to it?
Yeah, I was just enjoying the win all the day. So basically, I mean, this is not an analysis or anything like that. I mean, all my favorite players performed this match: Rohit, Pant, Kohli, Ashwin, and it was so good to watch. The first 2 days, I actually went to the stadium, and after all the ticket redemption fiasco, everyone came to the match, and it was so good to watch. So, I mean, the way Rohit played in the first innings, it was just so good to watch. And even then, that's what we posted in the Twitter page too. That if we score quickly, that would be an amazing thing for India because that actually changed the game. We actually scored quickly in the first day, and that really helped for us to put a score on the board. And England crumbled under the scoreboard pressure that they had. I don't think the pitch uh, showed a lot of difference from day one to day four, as many say. Of course, it deteriorated a tiny bit, but still, I think if they are played well, they could have survived. They wouldn't have been bundled out for 136, is my feeling.
Yeah, as you said, definitely England's first innings batting performance is something that the team has to contemplate on because on the same pitch, one day before India managed to get 326, and the next day India followed it up with almost a 300 score. But England, during the second day, that in the mid of second day, they could only manage 131. So some reckless shots, no patience against spin. Just trying to hit your way out of spin is not going to work. You look at all the players who've come to India and performed well against spin. They've been patient. They waited for the loose balls and they've covered the spin well. You look at all the dismissals. It was just sheer panic that one ball's going to turn, one ball's going to take my glove, one ball's going to take the edge. So if you play in that sort of a jaded mindset, it's very difficult to not only keep your focus on the game but also to score runs. So coming over to you, Gurkirat, there's been a lot of debate about the pitch. A lot of voices from foreign lands have actually called this a horror pitch. Um, my feeling is only if not even one of the 22 players can score on that wicket, you can call it a horror pitch. We had Indian players who stood up, they've scored runs, and even in England, Ben Fox in the first innings, he made runs. He stood for almost 15 overs and he got about a 43. And then Moeen Ali, well, he came in at the end of the innings, but then he still was able to hit them out of the park. So, what is your take on this entire pitch debate? I've seen you tweeting a lot about it. You've been against it. So, what is your overall take about it?
See, it is no doubt a difficult pitch, right? It's a difficult pitch for foreign batsmen, but it's not a pitch which is in any way I feel unfit for Test cricket or not good enough. Uh, like I said, it's a difficult pitch, but legacies are made on when you perform on such pitches. There's a reason why everyone remembers KP's 186. There's a reason why everyone remembers Dale's chain 7 for 51, and there's a reason why everyone remembers Steven Smith's 100 in Pune. There's a reason why people talk of Michael Clark having a very good record in Asia because he scored the kinds of 100 which he did in Chennai in 2013. So if you ask me, this pitch was very similar to the one in 2013, and Australia had scored some 380 runs in the first innings on that pitch. So it was not a pitch where you couldn't bat. You needed someone who could trust his defense and had more shots against against spin apart from just the sweep. I think what did England in was that they just tried to sweep their way out of misery, which will not happen. Which will not happen, especially with someone like an Akshar Patel, who's not only a tall bowler but actually can bowls at pace as well. Today also he was bowling in high 90s, and then when he bowled 4 or 5 deliveries on the stumps to Joe Root, he just floated a one outside the off stump to see and check if he would go for the sweep. He did, but he missed the ball. In the first innings, he didn't miss the ball and top edged it. So I think that is where England have to blame themselves. I also felt Joe Root could have batted a little better in the first innings, especially considering the situation it was. The ball was still hard. It was still bouncing, so it was not the kind of pitch yet where he could play the sweep. He should have waited for the ball to get a little softer, because then the bounce would have died down and then he could have probably played the sweep. It's not that he didn't play the sweep in this innings, he did, but he played it when the ball was very full. Like, he played it to Kuldeep Yadav because the pace was slower and the ball was full. So it was a pitch where you could have batted had you shown some application, but it was not an unfit pitch. If we are just talking in terms of overs, if we look back at Edgbaston 2018, the match got over in the 10th session. This match went till 11th session. If you talk of Lords 2018, that match literally got over in 2 days, 2.5 days. If you talk of Adelaide, that match got over in 7 sessions. So if you are going to judge the pitch by saying just seam is okay or swing is okay and spin is not, then it's a very hypocritical way of looking at things. I think the way you judge a pitch is you sort of first see, can players get injured while batting on it? They don't. If the pitch at Johannesburg 2018 was not an unfit pitch or was not a poor pitch, then there is no way this one is a poor pitch. So first criteria has to be to see if it's a dangerous pitch and can play people get injured. If they're not getting injured, then it's not the case. It's not a dangerous pitch. Then it just comes down to skill. I could probably agree that Nagpur 2015 against South Africa was an underprepared pitch because the test match got over in 3 days, but not this one. Not this one, because like Ashwin also showed that it's difficult to bat when the ball's moving around at 140, 150 than when it is moving around, say, 80 or at 80 or 90 kilometers per hour. A lot of people are drawing parallels between India's batting on day 3 and then England's batting on day 2. I don't think it's a fair comparison, because when you have a lead of around 200 runs, teams react differently and you bat differently, even if the pitch is difficult. I think the appropriate comparison has to be between the batting performances on the first 2 days or in the first innings. And I think when England got all out for 134, they pretty much shot themselves in the foot and were going to the play the were behind the 8 ball. So they have themselves to blame as well. Even though Moeen Ali took wickets, I think four in both the innings, he did bowl a lot of loose deliveries. There were a lot of full tosses. There were a lot of short ones. A lot of full length deliveries. He needed to bowl in a channel which was slightly short of full length and not exactly short, where he could sort of have the batsman in in a sort of position where they couldn't sweep. Also, what Moeen Ali could have done, which he didn't do, especially in the second innings, was probably try and come around the wicket. Because had he come around the wicket, he would have brought in the uh, LBW in picture in probably every delivery, and that would have made it very hard and risky for him to be swept. He just didn't try that angle against the right-handers when Rohit Sharma kept sweeping him. So it's not just down to the pitch; it's down to the ability, it's down to the skill, and like how Ashwin spoke, it was all also down to about playing mind games. If you see the balls which didn't dismiss the batsman, they weren't the ones which turned a lot. They were probably ones which were planned and planted in their heads. Except for the one today where the ball bounced a little too much for Joe Root when he was playing Akshar Patel. All other wickets were to normal deliveries. It was just the setup and what all that was going in the head. So if you see the wicket of Dan Lawrence, it was sort of a given the way he had batted the previous evening that he's going to come down the track and use his feet. So Ashwin knew that that was going to happen, and then he fired it in when he saw him coming down the time. And then Pant did a brilliant stumping, because usually when you're collecting the ball, when it is coming from in between the legs of the batsman, you can't see it. So it was a brilliant stumping. Then you talk of Stokes dismissal. Stokes never looked comfortable against Ashwin. He was sort of comfortable while playing Akshar Patel, but against Ashwin he didn't really know what to do. And the way he was reacting after he had got out, it was clear frustration, because he thought that he could do whatever he could. He thought he was playing the line well, but that is the sort of mental games Ashwin was talking about. And then if you talk of Oli Pope, it was a needless shot. It was not needed. There was no need for him to go and slog sweep that one. Then Ben Fokes again, no need to sort of sweep at that point of time when he actually showed that if he uses his feet and comes down the track, he could probably play the bowling better. Also, like I said, even when while sweeping, you had to show a little control. Even though he attempted the sweep to Kuldeep Yadav, he had to keep it down, especially knowing there was a fielder there. So, like I said, even though the ball was spinning, the ball was bouncing from awkward heights. It was not really those balls which did them in. It was just you know those balls were there to create a fear and create an insecurity in the minds of the batsmen. It was actually the very reasonable deliveries which got them out. uh, I think, yeah, the sixth wicket was Oli Pope, seventh was Ben Fokes, and then the eighth one was Joe Root. If you talk of the wicket of Oli Stone, although ideally you shouldn't be looking at that too much because by then the game was anyway over. That was also down to a very innocuous delivery. Wasn't much happening off the pitch in that one. So, like I said, you could have batted. Just needed to be, as the great batsmen talk about. If a delivery has beaten you, you stop thinking about that delivery and you just focus on the next one. That probably didn't happen with the English batsmen in this innings and in this test, and hence they've lost.
Yeah, as you rightly put it out, Gurkirat, I think the approach by England towards spin has been questionable. They just came out here with just one plan, that was to either get fully down the track and get the ball on the full, or try and sweep it. So apart from that, I think England did not have a plan B. They did not have the defensive game in them to hold fort against balls that were going to cut back sharp. And on the other hand, the way in which they got out also was definitely not good. If you get out fending to a ball like how Joe Root did, we're trying to play defensively and one just kicks from the surface, you can't do much about it. That is purely the pitch's wicket. But at the end of the day, as you pointed out, there were a lot of wickets out of the 20 which they could have avoided, because had they not played those reckless shots and played the ball on merit, they would have definitely got more runs. Uh,
Another
so
thing,
with that,
another thing
yeah,
that I want to add. As we saw with Ashwin and Virat batting on day three, once the ball got soft, batting became easier. We saw that on day one as well. So, England probably may not have drawn this test match, but they could have, elongated the length of the test match by sort of say if they were only five down at lunch. If Oli Pope and Root were batting till lunch, who knows? Maybe they could have batted the day out and extended the game. I don't say that they would have won or they would have drawn, but you have to still give yourself the best chance possible. And I think somewhere Joe Root's captaincy also has to be blamed in the second innings. Oli Stone was massively underbowled, considering the amount of inconsistent bounce that was there on this pitch. Someone like Oli Stone should have bowled more than 7 overs. Once Ashwin was there out to bat, and he had played a few sweeps to both Jack and Kohli. A good captain should have brought in Ollie Stone because there is no way Ashwin would have been as comfortable as he was against the two spinners as he would have been against an Ollie Stone with his pace and the bounce and the carry that he was getting on the first day. Ashwin would have definitely struggled. And once Kuldeep also got out and India were eight down, uh, he missed the trick there as well because eventually the last wicket fell to Ollie Stone. So Holy Stone was massively underbowled. He should have been bowled at some point of time. Not only say, I'm not saying that he would have definitely gotten a wicket, but he could have actually, ensured that India sort of bats slowly. Because once you are behind 195 runs on day two, time is also a huge factor. So Joe Root's captaincy also, was very disappointing and was not up to the mark if you ask me.
yeah, Cricket. As you pointed out, some of the bowling changes that Joe Root made, definitely not in an attacking form. And of course, with respect to his bowlers, I think he probably didn't communicate much with his bowlers in order to let them know that they should be bowling consistent lines on that pitch. because when the pitch was doing that much on day one, all that Moin Ali and Jack Leach had to do was find the right areas and keep hitting them consistently, maybe 4 out of 6 balls in the over. And who knows, they could have induced the edge or maybe caught a back pat. But at the end of the day, it was their slightly inconsistent bowling on the first day that allowed India to probably get 75 more runs than what was par on that wicket. And eventually that led to their downfall. So moving on to Shreyas, anything to add to what you think about the pitch? Because that's been a topic of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, this might be a hot take for anyone, but I still think uh, there there is no bad pitch or good pitch unless the pitch is dangerous. You should not brand the pitch bad or good. I mean, toss definitely will be a factor. It has been a factor for years together. I mean, teams who bat first will definitely have the advantage in some pitches. But that's the game, right? I mean, it's been there for so long. I mean, it has been the case for such a long time, and there will be variety, and that's the beauty of the game. There will be turning tracks, and there will be tracks which have pace and bounce, and there will be tracks that are flat, like in the first test match. But still, I don't think if the team is skilled enough, I think there is enough in every decent pitch which can produce a result for the team which bats second too. And particularly, I've told this in the first test review too, that the pitch didn't. I mean, it obviously favored England, but still, India could have drawn the test if they had batted well in the third innings. I mean, sorry, not third innings, third day. So I don't think similar case. I'll tell for this pitch also. I think England batted really badly in the first innings and bowled really badly in the first innings. They shouldn't have let India score 300 in the first innings. They didn't bowl well. Moeen Ali, in particular, he leaked a lot of runs, and after that it became a misery for England. So basically, they lost the game in the first day itself. So that's the main thing that I'd like to say. And regarding, I told about how England plans were pinpoint in the first test. This is exactly opposite. All their plans failed in the second test. I mean, they didn't plan really well. It looked like they had only one shot in their armor. That is the sweep. They kept on sweeping, and it was too unnecessary. And I think they didn't read the pitch well, whereas the Indians did, and hence they succeeded.
Yeah, with respect to the positives and negatives of the match, what would you rate as India's positives and negatives?
Yeah, definitely. Like everything was positive, and I've always maintained this. Ashwin is a solid number seven for India at home conditions. Uh, because why I'm telling this is he is an elite player of spin. Like he can bat really well versus spin. Uh, of course, he has weaknesses facing pace bowling, but still, I think Ashwin is really good enough to play number seven, particularly at home. I don't know about away conditions. He didn't perform that well in the past 2 years, but after the Sydney innings, his confidence has risen above, and we are so lucky to have Ashwin and Jadeja both at the same time in the same era. It will be really tough for us to find the replacement for those two, but we should just enjoy both of them till they play.
Yeah, as you said, definitely our bowling attack has definitely stood up after the performance in the first test, and our batting as well. Rohit Sharma splendid 150. Gurkirat, what would you rate as India's biggest positives? And if you had to find some issues with the Indian lineup, what would it be?
Biggest positive is definitely Rohit Sharma's batting, because there were a lot of talk and noise as to maybe he should be replaced again with KL and Mayank, and I was not in favor of it, because even though, like I said in the preview, even though he's thrown his wicket away, he's not looked like a walking wicket. So his 100 is going to give the team management a lot of confidence. How he was able to he plays in the next test match is also going to give him and the team a lot of confidence as to how he's going to do in England. I think that he's worked on his technique and is leaving the ball well. And I would definitely want him to do well because that will solve a lot of issues and headaches for the team management. Because mostly when you talk of Rohit Sharma, you talk of his circumspect technique against swing bowling. But if he does well, it is going to solve a lot of headaches and a lot of and clear a lot of doubts. So I hope it happens. The other positive, like I said, I feel is Akshar Patel because it gives India a like-to-like replacement for Jadeja when Jadeja is not available. So because you're finding someone like Jadeja who can bowl, spin at pace, not necessarily turn enough, and can do the holding job when the pitches are flat is very very important. So we'll have to we've seen how he can bowl, but we'd like to see how he can bat. And if he plays the next test match, we'll get some idea of his batting as well. So these two are the biggest positives. I feel a little disappointed with Ajinkya Rahane, even though he scored runs, because I again felt that he'd done all the hard work and there was 100 for a taking. The way he got dismissed was disappointing because it was he again sort of threw his wicket away. And someone like Ajinkya Rahane getting out to Moeen Ali 7 times in his Test career, both times he got dismissed to Moeen Ali, is something which I don't know what to make of. He's a much better batsman than getting out to Moeen Ali 7 times. And I say this with all due respect because the way he played in Melbourne, he's definitely worked on his spin game. So you expect him to carry that forward, which he did because one of the highlights of day one was whenever Jack Leach was getting into a rhythm, and he tried to bowl a quicker one to Ajinkya Rahane and pulled his length back, he got cut. I think that there was some very high quality and high class batting from Ajinkya Rahane, because had he allowed Jack Leach to settle and not taken use of those slightly loose deliveries or not cut him, then maybe he could have gotten into a rhythm where he would have kept bowling into a what you call as a corridor of uncertainty and kept troubling both the batsmen. So that from Ajinkya Rahane was very good, and how he played that little spell from Oli Stone after lunch was also very good to see. So it's something you'd hope that he carries his form forward, but I hope it happens. Always worried about him because he never seems to be out of form and he never seems to be in form. So that is what Ajinkya Rahane is for me. I hope he carries forward. But yes, biggest positive is Rohit Sharma and Akshar Patel.
Yeah, I'd like to add one point to what Gurkirat said. Uh, I definitely agree with Gurkirat here. Rahane, he should have scored 100. But the thing is, if you observed over the last 2 years, whenever Rahane is involved in a big partnership, if the other partner gets out, Rahane gets out too in the next 5 or 10 overs. I don't know why that happens, but that has been the case even with Kohli in Adelaide and many other matches. That's the one thing that I've been observing, and even Anirudh pointed out in the stadium to me. He told that he'll get out quickly, and it did happen.
It's actually a brilliant point because I think he sort of gets into a kind of pressure, or lets that dismissal get into his head, and then he becomes circumspect again. And also, something that I've seen with Ajinkya Rahane is if he's able to bat out the first 30 balls, then he's fine. Because the first 30 balls, he doesn't give you any sort of confidence. He will try various things. He'll either come out attacking, counter attacking, or he'll sort of get into a what you call as a shell. So it's very intriguing and hard to decipher what his ways are. And I'm not sure even he's also very sure as to what he wants to do. So it's a like I said, it's sort of an enigma and very intriguing sort of an analysis because uh, there is no logical reasoning or sense as to why Ajinkya Rahane, averages just 42. He's clearly a much better batsman, and he should be having a lot more than 1200 from 70 test matches. I mean, he should have at least had 17, 18. 17, 18 test match 100 should have been the minimum for Ajinkya Rahane by now. I don't know how he doesn't have them.
Yeah, that's true, Gurkirat. As you said, the conversion rate of Ajinkya Rahane has been under question, and most of the times, right after he's gotten to a 50, we've had the situation where he's played a false shot and he's got out most of the time. So yes, that that almost concludes the podcast for today. Just one question before we leave. Gurkirat, the rise of Ashwin has been monumental in the last 3 months or so, right from the Australian tour, right from the day he drew that Sydney Test match, and now with this heroic performance at his home ground, Chennai. What do you think has been the major attribute for this monumental rise of Ashwin in the last 4 to 5 months?
Ashwin, the batsman, right? Because I don't, or you talking of the overall package?
Yeah, the all-round package, his bowling, everything's gone up a notch now. He seems to be a totally different
See,
cricketer.
I think he's definitely worked on his fitness, which has helped his bowling because we often talk of how fast bowlers need to work on their fitness to maintain their pace and everything. Spin bowlers also need to work on their fitness because if they have a stronger core, they're able to put in a lot more body into their action and get a lot more pace. And I say this because I observed Amit Mishra a lot. Amit Mishra, was a wonderful leg spinner and was a very bright prospect. I think where he couldn't do well was that his stature and his height and his build didn't allow him to bowl slightly quicker, which we see with Rashid Khan. Rashid Khan, since he's come onto the scene, he's only become fitter and sort of increased his pace. So that always helps because you are able to beat the batsman off the pitch and in the air. And I think Kuldeep Yadav is also having similar issues because with his action and with his build, because he's also short heighted, it's very difficult for him to get a lot of bounce off the wicket. He can only work on his pace. And there was a graphic which was shared by Star that the average speeds of Ashwin, Kuldeep, and Akshar. So Akshar's average speed was 90 in the 90s. Ashwin's was in the 80s, and Kuldeep Yadav was in the 70s or the late 70s. And whenever he went over the 80, 82 or 83 mark, he ended up delivering a short one or a fuller one. So he definitely has to work on it, and I think Ashwin working on his fitness has helped him. It's helped him in his action, and the fact that he was able to sustain that and able to work on those plans which he's always wanted to, because if you see the previous overseas tours, his body failed him, and I was very very worried of that happening in Melbourne when he bowled some 39 overs in the second innings. India bowled some 100 odd overs and he bowled 39 overs, so that was a massive effort. I think that has obviously helped him. And Vikram Rathore and Bharat Sundaresan spoke that he'd worked a lot in his batting on while he was in Australia. If anyone has observed Ashwin the batsman over the years, one good thing that Ashwin used to do as a batsman, and that was reflective of his confidence as a batsman, was he used to charge down to spinners. I remember, even in the Mumbai Test 2012 that India lost, Ashwin scored a 60 odd in the first innings and he was batting well in the second innings too. He also had a 90 in the third test in Calcutta. He was the only one who was able to, come down to Graham Swanham and hit him over the top for sixes. And he was able to cut Monty Panesar very well. So, when Ashwin's batting well and, regaining his confidence when he's charging down and using his feet against spinners. And I think that has happened since Australia. There were signs of it in the first innings in Melbourne when, he was starting to sort of build some sort of a partnership with Ravindra Jadeja, but he got out. And then in Sydney, he showcased what he could do. And in this test match, he brought out the sweep as well and was able to use his feet well. So I think the signs are there, but I still wouldn't, be very confident of him yet, of him batting at number 7 in India. I'd still like India to play Washington Sundar or Akshar Patel or even a Shardul Thakur if the pitch demands it at number 7 or number 8 to elongate the batting, because you also want Ashwin to sort of be free. You don't want him to be too worried about his batting, because I also feel he's sort of a player who relies a lot on his confidence. If he starts thinking too much about his batting and he doesn't score well, I don't want that lack of confidence affecting him in his bowling. It may not happen, but as of now, when you have resources, when you have a Ravindra Jadeja, when you have a Shardul Thakur, when you have a Washington Sundar, I don't think there should be a lot of pressure on Ashwin to bat. He shouldn't be throwing his wicket away, which I don't think he's ever done. But I don't think we should be expecting a lot out of him and ask him to be a proper number 7, because number 7 is an all-rounder position. You on an average you would need 30-35 runs from number seven in most innings, which I think Ravindra Jadeja is perfectly capable of. So I'd want Ashwin to be there at number eight only.
Yeah, Gurkirat. As you pointed out, given the amount of bowling all-rounders that we have now, it is definitely necessary that Ashwin is given that liberty to play freely without much pressure. And I think Ashwin, without pressure, will also flourish as a batsman. We've seen most of his innings coming in, it's, situations where India's needed runs. Whenever India's needed runs, he's managed to contribute it. That's how Ashwin's batting performances have been over the years. And as you pointed out, his fitness has been immense. His work rate has been great. He's delivering the overs, and now he's also being able to keep his body fit. So I think yes, Ashwin is definitely reveling in this particular time frame. Shreyas, anything to add to what Gurkirat pointed out regarding the rise of Ashwin?
This I think I will always disagree with Gurkirat because I still think at home when most of the tracks are spinning, I think Ashwin is really a very good number seven to have. I mean, of course, when you have Jadeja, you play Jadeja, but when you don't have, I think you can play Ashwin at number seven. Of course, but we are still blessed with so many talents like Akshar and Washington Sundar. I agree with Gurkirat on that. We might play them, but still, if there is a need to be, if there is a need for an extra pacer or an extra specialist spinner, I think we should just go with the decision and play Ashwin at number seven because our top six is really good, right? I mean, at home you expect them to score at least 300 on any surface. This is I'm telling this only at home conditions because in away conditions I don't think Ashwin is that good number seven, but still he is someone who takes up his confidence and performs. So I think this is a revelation for us, and I hope it continues.
Yeah. So with that, it's a wrap on this review of the second Test match. Big thanks to our guest Gurkirat and Shreyas for taking time out being a part of the podcast today. We have the all-important IPL auction coming up. We're planning to do a couple of shows with Gurkirat on the day of the auction. So hopefully we can make the time and do the two shows that we have planned. So do stay tuned. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back with another exciting video. Until then, take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you.